Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 46 male, have a 19-year-old daughter, Emily, from my first marriage to Sarah. Sarah was an incredible woman and a devoted mother, and we were married for 10 years before she passed away from cancer when Emily was only 8 years old. Losing Sarah was devastating for both Emily and me, and I did everything I could to be there for my daughter during that difficult time. One of the ways Sarah and I planned for Emily's future was by setting up a college fund shortly after she was born. We contributed consistently over the years, and by the time Emily turned 18, the account had grown into a significant sum, enough to cover her tuition, housing, and other expenses for a good university. Emily is a bright, ambitious young woman. She excelled in high school and was accepted into a prestigious university. Knowing how hard she worked to get there, I was proud to have been part of ensuring she had the financial means to pursue her dreams. 5 years ago, I met Laura, 39 female, who is now my wife. Laura is a passionate and driven person with big dreams of her own. From the start, she talked about her desire to create a tech startup that could change the way people interact with certain digital platforms. For privacy reasons, I won't go into the specifics of her idea. I admired her ambition and supported her dreams, even though they seemed like a distant goal at the time. About a year ago, Laura decided it was time to launch her business. She had developed a detailed plan and was ready to take the plunge, but she needed capital to get started. Laura applied for loans and sought out investors, but for various reasons, those avenues didn't work out. This is where I made the decision to use Emily's college fund to invest in Laura's startup. I believed in Laura's vision and her ability to make the business successful. I thought it was a smart financial move that would not only secure Emily's future, but also provide long-term benefits for our entire family. To be clear, this wasn't a decision I made lightly. I understood the importance of the college fund, and I knew how much it meant to Emily. However, I also saw Laura's startup as a unique opportunity. If successful, the business could generate far more money than the college fund ever could. My plan was simple. I would use the college fund as seed money for the startup, and once the business became profitable, I would replenish the fund. In my mind, it was a temporary risk for a long-term gain. I truly believed that Laura's success would ultimately benefit Emily as well. At the time, I didn't discuss the decision with Emily. I didn't want to burden her with the details or worry her unnecessarily. I figured it would be better to explain once I had tangible results to show for it. A few months ago, Emily asked me for access to her college fund to cover tuition and living expenses for her sophomore year. That's when I had to tell her what I had done. Her reaction wasn't good. She was furious and felt deeply betrayed. Emily accused me of taking her money without permission and prioritizing Laura over her. She also pointed out that the fund was something her late mother and I had set up for her, making it even more painful that I had used it for something else. I tried to explain my reasoning, emphasizing that the investment was meant to benefit the family as a whole, and that the money would be replaced once the startup succeeded. Emily, however, didn't want to hear it. She said I had no right to touch the fund without consulting her, and that I had completely disregarded her future. Things escalated from there. Emily told me she had no interest in taking out student loans, and that it wasn't fair for her to shoulder that burden because of my decision. She said I had broken her trust, and showed that I valued Laura's dreams more than her education. A few weeks later, Emily informed me that she had spoken to a lawyer. She said she was prepared to take legal action to recover the money if I didn't return it immediately. Hearing this from my own daughter felt like a punch to the gut. I never imagined we would reach a point where she would threaten to sue me. I told her that suing me wouldn't solve anything, as the money was already invested and tied up in the business. I tried to reason with her, explaining again that the startup would eventually generate enough money to replace the fund, but she wasn't willing to wait. Emily argued that the money was hers, not mine, and that I had no right to use it for something she didn't agree to. She said she felt completely disrespected and undervalued, and that taking legal action was her only option to ensure her future wasn't jeopardized. The situation at home became increasingly tense. Emily and I could barely have a conversation without it devolving into an argument. I felt like she wasn't giving me a chance to prove that my decision would ultimately benefit her, while she felt like I was dismissing her feelings and concerns. In a moment of frustration, I told Emily that if she went through with the lawsuit, she would no longer be welcome in our home. I didn't mean it as a threat. I was simply trying to make her understand the seriousness of her actions and how much it would hurt our family. Emily, however, interpreted my words as me choosing Laura over her. She accused me of replacing her with my new family and said she couldn't believe I would prioritize a business over her education. She told me she would move out as soon as she could afford to, and that our relationship would never be the same. Laura's startup is still in its early stages, and while I remain optimistic about its potential, it hasn't started generating profits yet. Emily is still living at home, but the tension between us is unbearable. We barely speak, and when we do, the conversations are cold and filled with resentment. I understand why Emily is upset, but I also feel like she's not seeing the bigger picture. I made this decision with the best intentions, believing it would ultimately benefit her and the rest of our family. At the same time, I can't ignore the fact that I've hurt her deeply, and I'm not sure how to repair the damage. Am I the a-hole for investing my daughter's college fund in my wife's startup and threatening to kick her out if she sues me? That money was explicitly set aside for OP's daughter's education, and it wasn't OP's to gamble with. No matter how confident OP is in his wife's startup, startups are inherently risky, and OP put his daughter's future on the line without her consent. She has every right to be angry and to demand the money back. And now let's hear the community's opinion. You're the a-hole. Startups fail more often than they succeed, and you've jeopardized your daughter's education for a gamble. Even if the business actually makes money, that doesn't excuse the fact that you broke her trust. You should focus on finding a way to repair your relationship with Emily instead of doubling down on your decision. You're the a-hole. This isn't just about the money. It's about trust and respect. You made a major decision about your daughter's future without involving her, and now you're punishing her for trying to stand up for herself. If you want to fix this, you need to take responsibility for your actions and prioritize her education. You're the a-hole. College funds are not family money. They're specifically for the child they're meant to support. Your intentions might have been good, but the way you handled this was completely wrong. You need to find a way to return the money to your daughter, even if it means making sacrifices elsewhere. She deserves better than this. Update. Laura's startup didn't succeed. Despite her hard work and dedication, the business never gained the traction we had hoped for. Funding ran out, and we had to shut it down entirely. The entire investment, including Emily's college fund, was lost. It's devastating to see Laura's dream come to an end, especially knowing how much she poured into it. But more than that, it's gut-wrenching to face the consequences of my decision to use Emily's money. I gambled with her future, and now I have nothing to show for it. When the startup officially failed, I had to sit Emily down and tell her the truth. I explained that the money was gone and that there was no way for me to replace it in the near future. I told her how sorry I was and that I regretted not consulting her before making such a huge decision. Emily's reaction wasn't what I expected. She didn't yell or get angry. Instead, she looked at me with a mix of disappointment and pity. She told me she had already assumed this would happen, given how risky startups are. What hurt the most was when she said, "I didn't sue you because I feel sorry for you. You've proven you're a miserable human being, and I don't want to waste any more of my energy on you." Hearing those words from my own daughter broke me. I tried to explain that my intentions were good, that I truly believed the investment would benefit her in the long run, but she didn't want to hear it. She told me that intentions didn't matter when the result was the same. Her future was jeopardized because of my poor judgment. After that conversation, Emily moved out of the house. She didn't tell me where she was going, and she didn't ask for help or support. She simply left. A few days later, I received a text from her saying she didn't want any further contact with me. In her message, Emily said that she couldn't trust me anymore and didn't see the point in maintaining a relationship. She said she was done feeling second to Laura and that I had completely failed her as a father. Since then, I've heard from mutual friends that Emily is staying with a friend and working part-time to support herself while attending school. She's determined to finish her degree on her own, without my help. I've spent countless sleepless nights replaying everything in my mind, wondering how I let things get to this point. I thought I was making a decision that would benefit my family, but I see now that I was blinded by my belief in Laura's dream and didn't consider how my actions would affect Emily. I've lost my daughter, possibly for good, and I have no one to blame but myself. I gambled with something that wasn't mine to gamble with, and I've paid the price. The worst part is knowing that I've hurt Emily so deeply that she feels she has no choice but to cut me out of her life. Laura has been supportive through all of this, but it's hard to feel comforted when the weight of my actions is so heavy. I feel like I failed as a father, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to make amends. To anyone reading this, please learn from my mistakes. Don't make decisions that could jeopardize the trust and future of the people you love. No matter how good your intentions are, the consequences can be devastating. Me, 29 female, and my husband, 29 male, has a daughter, 3 female, and my sister-in-law, husband's sister, 27 female, has a 2-year-old girl child. Her baby daddy is not in the picture. I usually pass on everything my kid outgrows to my sister-in-law since she doesn't work and manages by staying with her in-laws. And also, when we buy toys, we also buy something for her kid if it's a special occasion. Recently, for the past 1 year or so, my sister-in-law has started demanding clothes from us. Like, I think she should have outgrown it by now, where is it kind of thing, which was quite off-putting. Also, when we buy some big-ticket items like a trampoline, she started making snide comments like we buy only low-priced items for her daughter. But a trampoline, a good one, costs around $900 in our country. We just can't buy 2. We just told her the kid can use it whenever she's here. My parents and siblings buy some name-brand clothes for my daughter, and within the next 3 months, she starts pestering if my daughter has outgrown them. It started to become a bother when she called me at the office once to ask if I can pick up a designer brand jumper for her daughter, since it's been 6 months since my mom gave it to my daughter. We were kinda managing it and didn't really allow it to be a deal breaker. We were discussing education once and school zoning, and she was saying we should live close to in-laws since they were in the better school zone, and my husband said we were okay since we have an education fund for our child, and she will be going private. Sister-in-law was very quiet. Next weekend, the in-laws asked if they could come to our place for afternoon tea. We can have a 10-people gathering in our state. And after a couple of minutes, said it was not fair our daughter gets everything handed over to her in a silver platter, while my husband's niece doesn't have that privilege, and they wanted us to divide our daughter's school fund into half and also help niece go to the same school. My husband and me were flabbergasted, and my husband said they should let sister-in-law experience life, and they are why she's not adulting yet. They were not happy, but they said okay and left. My sister-in-law has then gone to my parents, asking them to talk to me, and I lost it. I called her and gave her an earful, and I might have said how she's being a bad example for her kid, and how she should get off her butt and find a job, post this pandemic, etc. I admit I was angry, and it showed in my voice. She told that to her parents, and has ordered that my kid shouldn't be allowed at my in-laws' home. My in-laws called us unhappily and said they should then probably start coming to our house to play with my daughter. I said if they can't stand up to their daughter who brings a child into adult spats, they shouldn't be bothered to come to our house. My husband says I should probably let them so we wouldn't have anything to do with his sister. Am I the a-hole for not agreeing to that? Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law sounds entitled. Your niece is not your child, nor is it your job to provide for her. If your in-laws are so concerned, they should pay for her private school. You've been very generous, and you have every right to be angry about how demanding she's become. You take care of your kid, and she can take care of hers, and be grateful for what she gets. It's not a competition, and that's a horrible outlook for her to have. She's spoiled, and it's time for her to grow up. If your in-laws allow themselves to be controlled by her, that's on them. It shows favoritism and weakness, and she's in no position to be demanding anything. If they favor her child so much, it will not do well for your kid in the future. It's time someone puts their foot down and tells her to get bent and act like an adult. I wouldn't give her anything until she decides to woman up and apologize for being a jerk. Have your husband read the Don't Rock Your Boat essay. He needs to realize that his daughter is something worth putting his foot down over. If you don't, she'll always be treated as a second-class citizen. Not the a-hole. You don't have a kid with your sister-in-law. It's not your responsibility to take care of someone else's kid. It's not like her daughter is going without anything essential. And even then, it's still not your responsibility. It does sound best to distance yourself from sister-in-law. Not the a-hole. It's not your job to provide for someone else's child, even if they are family. And you need to be firm with sister-in-law so she can learn to respect boundaries and not expect handouts all the time. I'd suggest finding some kind of compromise with your in-laws for your daughter's sake. She shouldn't be denied contact with her grandparents because of her aunt's behavior. 2 days ago, I, 19 female, was in the bathroom, and I heard sister-in-law, 25 female, talking about my husband, 23 female, and I to whoever she was on the phone with. I don't think she knows I was in the bathroom and how thin the wall is. She was saying that she and brother-in-law, 30 male, had to give away their car because the monthly payment was too much for them. Mother-in-law co-signed their car and therefore told the other brother-in-law about it. Then he wanted their car if they plan on selling it and said he will just take over the payments and change the title to his name. Brother-in-law and sister-in-law took a loss, but they would be saving money. Then sister-in-law went on saying that they got rid of it because my husband and I live with them. Brother-in-law is my husband's older brother, and they're unable to save since we don't help them out with grocery and bills. She started saying after we moved in with them, the electricity went up to $60 more, with the total being $220. Brother-in-law asked my husband one time if we turn on the lights in our room 24/7 or something, because the bill was a lot more than normal. Then my husband said we don't, and that if we help pay the electricity bill, then we're going to be broke. Sister-in-law continued saying, we've never asked them for help, even when we're struggling, so if they wanted to help, they would have, but they don't. Their total combined weekly income is $1,400. They're making as much as my husband with their incomes combined. Sister-in-law is a stay-at-home mom. My mother-in-law told us that they actually have a lot of money saved up. Maybe when they move out, they'll learn that nothing is free like how they're having it right now. They'll probably realize how expensive food is since they're not feeding a total of 4 adults and 4 kids. Maybe it's like what my husband said. If they help us out with bills and groceries, then they won't have money to have fun. So they just keep saying they're broke. Because how are they bringing $5,000 a month and be broke? They always say they're broke. But the only bills that they say they're paying for is one car insurance, and phones. I get that it's true that we don't help them out, but she didn't need to go and tell people that we don't help them out. It's not our fault that they're struggling. We can't afford to get our own apartment, and we definitely can't afford groceries for 4 adults and 4 kids. They have 3 kids, and we only have 1. Brother-in-law overheard my husband and I arguing about it and calling sister-in-law a bee. He called us a-holes and leeches. So now I'm at my parents' house and I don't want to go back home after hearing sister-in-law saying all that stuff. It's causing my husband and I to have problems because he wants me to go back, but I don't. Edit. I just want to add that no, we're not living with my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law moved out of state and at the time my husband didn't have a place to live. Mother-in-law asked sister-in-law and brother-in-law to move into her mobile home so my husband can have a place to live. Then my husband and I met and got married and I moved in too. I don't care whatever financial struggle they're going through. But sister-in-law didn't need to blabber about my husband and I to people. Also, to correct sister-in-law, we're paying for my husband's car, his car insurance, our phones, child support, and 1 credit card. We're not legally married, so we qualified for Medicare. Sister-in-law was saying that they pay $1,000 for rent and bills. Miscellaneous bills is about $1,500. Their car payment was $1,050. And then the rest went into groceries, saying they spent about $300 a week for groceries. Again, it's not our fault they have a lot of bills, but they're now saving $1,050 a month, so I don't know why she's complaining. Yes, the a-hole, you are a leech. This is what leeches behave like. She's not asking you to buy all the groceries, as they're doing for you. She's asking you buy a portion, just like asking you to pay a portion of the bills. Adult life means bills. If you're not helping at all, you're being a house parasite. Edit. And if it's not a lie, why shouldn't she tell people? Don't like the truth being out? Then make the truth something flattering. Yes, the a-hole. You and your husband are freeloading, and your sister-in-law has every right to complain about it. It's not like she was lying about you. You all are mad and embarrassed that other people know you're sponging off family. If you weren't taking advantage of other people, you wouldn't have to worry about that. Yes, the a-hole. She's allowed to vent in her own home about a difficult situation. Have you ever even said thank you while they feed and house you? You really don't get groceries or anything? What are you guys going to do when they kick you out? My brother is married to a woman and has a daughter with her. They both are earning well. I have a daughter and her father is not in the picture. My parents supported me. My brother's woman gets free childcare from her parents 2 days a week since she apparently works full-time and want to save a bit of childcare fees, $165 per day. I told her I can do it for less, but she declined. She wouldn't even let her daughter with my parents when they apologized for me asking for money. Who would work for free? Hello? And I offered to do it for free since apparently she's a lovely person. She had everyone twisted around her little finger with her acting. Apparently because they are already taking care of my daughter full-time and she doesn't want to stress them more. She allows us to visit them at their home, which is a freaking 5-bedroom and a study home with a theater room as well. We live in a 3-bedroom house. She drops off used clothes from her daughter, and unless it's my daughter's birthday or Christmas, she has never even bought a new dress for her, and irrespective of how many dresses she gets new from her parents and sisters and brothers, it's always used and then shared with us. I was okay with it. I like certain dresses her daughter was wearing and might have asked her once or twice about when I can pick them up. I didn't find anything wrong with it since we are family. Recently, I came to know they have a fund for sending their daughter to private school. I realized how important education is and asked my parents to have a talk with them about sharing it. My parents are very shy, and I had to nudge them a bit. They asked, and my brother blowed up on them, influenced by this woman. My parents were heartbroken, and I thought maybe I can appeal to her parents. Her parents spoke nicely to me even though they said they can't interfere in their daughter's life. That's how arrogant she is. My brother's woman came to know about this and called me and was very rude and downright nasty. I was trembling after the phone call and my anxiety hit sky high. I asked my parents if they can give me some privacy and stop my brother and his family from visiting them. They said okay, because that's what families do, support the vulnerable. My brother's woman took this as an insult and forbid my parents to visit their house. My parents are sad since my father really respects her and loves his firstborn son. I also came to know she posted in this forum yesterday saying nasty things about me and people agreeing with her because she painted herself as the victim. Am I the a-hole if I showed that to my parents and brother to show her true colors? Let me see if I have this straight. You're jealous that your brother's partner makes more money, so can afford nicer clothing and an educational fund for her daughter, while you cannot, even though your parents support you. And you're annoyed she won't pay you to care for her child instead of getting free childcare from her own parents, i.e., her daughter's grandparents. And you resent her for giving you hand-me-down clothing, some of which you admit you like, because you think that instead she should be buying new clothes for your daughter out of her own money, even though she already does that on birthday and Christmas. And you went to your parents to complain about all these things and try to stop them having contact. And you're surprised that your brother's partner is upset and insulted by this? And now you want to ban your parents from visiting their own son, daughter-in-law, and grandchild. Of course, yes, the a-hole. Majorly. Yes, the a-hole. Your brother's woman? She's his wife. It's clear that you don't respect her at all, and all you want from her is money and new clothes. Private school is ridiculously expensive, and if they've been able to save up for it, how is that any of your business? Why on earth should she share this money with you? It's their money. They earned it. They can do whatever they want with it. It's clear that you hate your sister-in-law, and I feel sorry for her. You're incredibly entitled and expect everyone to bend over backwards for you. Also, why should she pay you to look after her children when she has 2 sets of grandparents willing to do it for free? Wait, you asked them to share the money they've been putting aside for their kids' education? And then you asked her parents? What did I just read? Yes, the a-hole. So, my stepdaughter suggested I come to Reddit for this. I, 59-year-old female, do not have the greatest relationship with my 28-year-old daughter or my mother who's 78. I found out last week that my mother is not including my 2 stepchildren in her will, which I do not agree with. She claims that because they were never close to her and since my stepkids told her they never considered her a grandmother, that she's not obligated to leave them anything. But she is leaving my youngest, 12, some money. But she is leaving my 28-year-old daughter, Lynn, her house and 20 acres of land. I consider my stepkids mine, especially since their bio mom passed when they were very young, and I tried very hard to make up what they needed. I will also admit that as a result, I did ignore Lynn's needs at times. But my stepkids needed a mother more, since Lynn never really lost her parents. I should also include Lynn wants nothing to do with my husband, and has told me I chose him over her bio kids every time. Which I don't agree with. Last night was the first time in months I've spoken to Lynn. I asked her once she inherited the property to split it with the other kids. She asked me why, and I told her it's only fair since they're her siblings. She said she didn't consider them siblings, since they have claimed she wasn't family to my stepkids. They did when they were younger, but they're adults now. It was dealt with when they said those things. She told me she didn't think it was fair since how my stepkids treat her grandmother and how no one visits either of them. Lynn told me this is just like how I split her college fund that the other grandmother, Dad's mother now passed, set up for her with my husband's kids, which I thought was completely fair. Lynn is a smart woman and hardworking. I just don't think she needs a house and all that land when she doesn't have kids, while my stepkids do. Lynn claims she's ace. I don't know what that is, and doesn't really want bio kids, and wants to adopt someday. I think she's being selfish and she doesn't need all that property. So, am I the a-hole for wanting her to split the inheritance? Yes, the a-hole. You were a terrible, neglectful mother to your child because of some man's kids. Why would anyone care what you want or what you do or don't agree with? Your opinion does not matter. You stole her money for college for your husband's kids. Then your stepkids have already decided that they don't consider your mother their grandma and don't even visit as adults. Why would she donate to the little pity charity you're trying to create for them? Please stay away from her with your foolish and entitled demands. There's a special place below for mothers like you. Yes, the a-hole. Lynn did lose one of her parents. She lost you the day you decided someone else's kids' needs were more important than your own child's. You don't have a good relationship with your mother or your daughter because you're a controlling a-hole. The fact Lynn is thriving without you and will continue to thrive without you shows how terrible of a person you are. Yes, the a-hole. By your own description of your actions, you stopped being a mother to Lynn the day you married your current husband. You continually chose him and your stepkids over your bio kids. Your stepkids say they don't consider your mother or Lynn family, but you think they are entitled to share in Lynn's inheritance from her grandmother. You haven't seen Lynn in months, and when you do, it's only because you want what's hers. Thank God Lynn had grandmother for support, because you were a lousy mother, then and now.